Hi guys, a quick video explaining why I was super confused when I ordered my latest MacBook Pro. It took me 2-3 days to actually finalize my configuration. That's mainly because there's just so many options available when you go to configure your machine, such as the CPU, GPU, RAM, storage, Thunderbolt 4, Thunderbolt 5. And if you're not careful, you could easily underspec your device or spend too much money overspeccing your device. So let's cut to the chase and let me just show you what I mean by this. If you take a close look at what Apple are advertising in terms of the M4 base, M4 Pro and M4 Pro Max chip, it's all about the CPUs and GPUs and how they vary and between each other to get the performance over one another. So let's have a look at what Apple are saying. So Apple are saying on the M4 base, you are getting a 10-core CPU and a 10-core GPU. On the M4 Pro, you're getting 14-core CPU and 20-core GPU. And on the M4 Pro Max, you're getting 16-core CPU, 40-core GPU, and then one extra media engine. Now, why these numbers are really important is because these are the numbers that Apple are going with, right? The numbers that you need to actually pay attention to is 1010, 1420 and 1640. And now if you actually look at what's available to you when you go to spec these devices, iMac, for example, starts at 8-core GPU and an 8-core CPU, even though the advertised spec for the base M4 is 10-core CPU and 10-core GPU. So what that actually means is you're actually at a disadvantage ordering the very entry level iMac because you're not getting what they have advertised. Yes, you are getting an M4 chip, but it is an underspeced chip, and which is also the reason why you are not getting 4 Thunderbolt ports in there. And because it's a base version, you're also just getting the Thunderbolt 4 ports, because the correct spec that as advertised 10-core CPU and 10-core GPU does come with 4 Thunderbolt 4 ports and also a gigabit and Ethernet port, right? It just goes to show you that if we're not careful, we could be easily ordering the wrong specifications and end up regretting that. And this trend is set to continue across all of the models, right? So look at the MacBook Pro, for example, here. On the 14-inch, you've actually got 2 models that are almost similar price, right? $1,999. You've got the standard M4 model, and then you've got the M4 Pro. Both are costed £2,000. The difference here is the base model has 10-core CPU and 10-core GPU. That's perfectly fine as advertised. But the entry-level M4 Pro is actually 12-core and 16-core, when what they advertise is 14-core and 20-core. What's actually happening in MacBook Pro is that the entry-level Pro chips are also configured slightly less than what they have advertised. And when we look at the 16-inch, the Pro Max version, the same thing that is happening. What's advertised is 16-core CPU and 40-core GPU, but you've also get a model for 14-core CPU and 32-core GPU, right? It's almost as if there is an underspeced version of each chip you could buy and potentially not get the same benefits as advertised. One more thing, if we go back once again to look at the configuration for the MacBook Pro base M4 and the entry-level M4 Pro version, even though they are the same specification, you can actually configure them slightly differently to get them cheaper. But Apple doesn't allow you to do that. Let's take the MacBook Pro for an example. You have the base M4 model and then entry-level M4 Pro model costed the same. The only difference is the base MacBook Pro model comes with 10-core CPU, 10-core GPU, 24 GB unified memory, and 1 terabyte of storage, which is perfectly fine, right? Because that spec is as advertised within their marketing, right? And when we look at the M4 Pro, it's 12-core CPU and 12-core GPU, 24 GB unified memory, and 512 SSD. So the only thing that is not as marketed is the CPU and GPU. What we can actually do here is we could configure this slightly. If we come on to the M4 Pro version, you got the 12-core CPU, 12-core GPU. It's costed at $1,999. I'm just going to duplicate this to show you a slight difference. Let's have a look at the M4 Pro. 12-core CPU, 16-core GPU is not as advertised. The advertised one is here, 14-core CPU and 20-core GPU, but the correctly advertised one is actually £400 more than the underpowered version. Let's go and select the entry level model for the M4 Pro, right? And what you can see here is it's a 12-core CPU and a 16-core GPU, 24 GB unified memory, and 512 SSD, which is completely fine, and a 70-watt USB charger. But what we can do here is we can now change the configuration, right? We weren't allowed to change it previously, so we can change this back to the 14-core CPU and a 20-core GPU as advertised, which puts the price back up to $2,199 because it's £200 more. You have an option of going with 512 gigabyte of SSD storage or 1 terabyte of storage. So if you select the 1 terabyte of storage, you're costed at £2,400, right? So for £2,400, you're getting 1420 specifications, 24 GB, 1 terabyte, and 96 watts USB charger, which is the same as this model here, right? 2,399. But by doing this, what it actually allows you to do is you could actually go down in price in terms of storage. If you don't want that much of storage, if you have external storages, you're completely fine. You can actually have more customization that you can do. You could get the same spec as this one for £200 less. But if you select this one, you see, you can go further higher. You can upgrade the cores, but you cannot change your terabyte. So you cannot go down. You cannot make this one cheaper. So if you know what you're doing, you could actually configure your devices correctly, and you don't have to pay more than what you intend to do, right? But if you're not careful, you will end up paying more for a device that is potentially underspeced. I hope this video helps. If you want to see more videos like that, do like and subscribe. Take care.